Hey there, everyone. I was just talking with my producer, Daniel, here about the video we just recorded. And I recorded a video with Maddy Martin from Smith.ai and recorded it for our clients. Occasionally when we have some things we want to get across that our clients should take a look at, or new ideas and things, we'll record some videos just for our clients. But this was such a good interview that I wanted to, it seemed like something that I should share with any law firm, because some of the stuff that Smith.ai does is just awesome. And we're actually a client of Smith.ai. We love their reception service. We use their receptionist, their chat, Facebook Messenger integration. And we've just gotten so much benefit out of it that I'm like, we need to share this with our clients. We actually sell a chat option, and we're like, our clients need to stop using our chat and use like Smith's whole service. So I went through like a lot of different information with Maddy about, kind of maybe why you should look at virtual receptionists, why, in terms of the chat feature versus the calling feature, how they price, some of the benefits, how they're unique in some of the stuff they do with legal and law firms. Gosh, we covered it all. We talked about some of the Clio Legal Trends report and how that should be influencing some of your decisions. Some of the things that we hear from clients that, maybe like, why they're thinking about or not thinking about virtual receptionist services, what some people are currently using. Great conversation. Definitely check it out, and you learn a lot. And if you need information, I'm going to put a lot of notes about Smith.ai and some of their refer to a lot of stuff they have on their website. Reach out to them. We're, again, super happy clients of Smith.ai and definitely can't recommend them enough. But for law firms, I think it's, as a marketer for law firms, it is something that we really recommend being able to manage your calls and like chats and stuff, and just make sure you're reacting to leads quickly, because you spend a lot of time and money and effort on your marketing. And if you're not actually turning those into clients because of some issues with, delay and systems and tools and stuff in your intake process, then you're certainly kind of wasting a lot of money in some cases. So we don't want that to happen. And this is a great way for a lot of law firms to kind of maximize the lead flow coming in for actually turning into clients. All right, enjoy the interview. Again, this was recorded for our clients, but I just wanted to make this available for everyone. Thanks. All right, I'm here with Maddy Martin from Smith.ai. And I wanted to take this chance to bring Maddy in and talk to our clients about all the benefits of virtual receptionists and really Smith in general. And before I kind of jump in and let Maddy introduce herself, I do want to say, GNGF, we actually struggle with a lot of the same things that law firms struggle. We're a services-based business. We get phone calls. We're also busy serving clients. And when we looked around, we tried different services. We gave Smith a try after meeting Maddy at a few conferences, and we're just blown away and are so happy with the services that we use them for like everything now. So if you ever call GNGF, you're really talking to a Smith receptionist, and they're wonderful. But so I wanted to bring Maddy in to talk about like all the benefits of virtual receptionists, because one, we're seeing them firsthand, and we know that they'd be great for our clients because we work with our clients very closely, and this is an area that could help many of them. So thanks for joining me, Maddy.
Thanks for having me.
So real quick, I'll let you give an introduction about you and Smith, and then I have a ton of questions for you.
Okay, sounds good. Well, so I'm the head of growth and education for Smith.ai, and we are headquartered in Palo Alto, but operating across North America with receptionist staffing, calls, chats, texts, and Facebook messages now 24/7. As of this very day, I'm really excited for the phone
That's awesome.
component of that. On the messaging side, it's been 24/7 for quite a while, right. But as I imagine, Mark, you can tell, that scaling services is something you don't take lightly, and we didn't want to take some, offshore solution to immediately get up and running for 24/7. We take it very seriously that if someone calls your firm or your business at 3 a.m., they should get the same fantastic experience with our receptionist that they would at 3 p.m. So that's a little bit about us. And I think, the most important thing that we'll focus on today together, Mark, is just the amount of work that we can take off your plate. And I would say that when you listen to our conversation, just think about what you could hand off that is reasonable to hand off, and what is maybe just a barrier mentally or outside of your comfort zone, because that's the most common barrier that we see for any new client. So just keep that in mind.
Right. And And we'll get, I have a couple questions around this, so we'll probably talk about this later, but it's just so easy to work with you guys. So that's the other great thing that we'll talk about. But I want to start kind of like with the beginning of the process, why a lot of people think about virtual receptionists is just, like the busyness of like answering the phone and stuff. So from a marketer's perspective, like clients are spending a lot of money with us and a lot of money with Google ads or Facebook ads and stuff to drive leads, right? To get new eyeballs to get to their website and hopefully pick up the phone and call or hit the chat button. We've both been to a lot of conferences and like the Clio Legal Trends report and other reports and stuff. So when a lead gets into the law firm, what are some of the top things that you guys have seen that matter to move that lead to becoming a client?
The number one biggest influence in whether or not that lead becomes a client, as long as your campaigns are well targeted and you're working with a great marketing agency, you have a really good sense for what your firm does, is responsiveness. So it is not relevant how good of an attorney you are if you don't pick up the phone, if you don't respond to the website visitors, and then have a very effective screening process in place so that only the best qualified leads are put in touch with the firm, whether that means the attorney, an intake coordinator, or whatever setup you have internally to win those new clients. And I think that that's the most important thing, that unless you respond promptly, you'll never get to have that conversation where you sell the value proposition of your firm specifically.
Right, and we've seen from that Clear Legal Trends report just the amount of calls that go unanswered, and I have to admit, we track a lot of calls from our clients, and the ones that don't have receptionist services, there's a lot of voicemails that happen, right? And I don't, it's hard for us as the marketer to kind of like go into their office, pick up the phone, and call somebody back to help that lead turn into a client. We know that. I forget what the expectation is, but like within 5 to 7 minutes is what the kind of like marketing and sales expectation is. But in the Clear Legal Trends report, it was like almost everybody was within 24 hours of expectation of a phone call, let alone half an hour, 1 hour, right? I mean, that was the majority. So that was not being able to get back with somebody. I think it's very important to understand that, like if you have a receptionist service, like the phone is being answered, the call is being handled. Right. They don't have to actually have the consultation in that moment, right? They just want to be like, know that their call was handled so they can stop going down to the next person in Google.
You want to stop the search. And what we know is that the majority of people who are looking to hire an attorney are looking at more than one firm. They contact more than one firm, and there's a major competitive advantage if you can stand out from the competition and say, I know that over 70% of lawyers are not getting back to these leads. They're not picking up. So if I pick up, I have a huge advantage at winning that client simply by being responsive. So what do we know? The data shows us that 82% of consumers expect an immediate response, and you are akin to Amazon, Uber, and Instacart of the world, right? If someone is interacting with a business and they get an instant response there, if CVS tells me my prescription is ready by text message, I'm going to instill in my brain that I interact with businesses through all of these channels. It's not just phone, and I don't have a tolerance for voicemail because we don't have any sort of confirmation that the voicemail has been received, that we'll receive a call back. And that's where it comes to the consultation being scheduled. We don't always need to transfer it live. The most important thing is that the potential client feels like they can stop their search, they have an appointment on the calendar, and for the attorney's peace of mind, we often, even for higher volume practices, will take payment for consultation over the phone to reduce the no-show rate, to make sure that that is a qualified, serious potential client, and that they are getting bookings on their calendar, because time is the most precious thing, that are most likely to convert to new clients.
Right. So I actually had that question later. So I probably will come back to the payment stuff and some of the other things you can do, because there is another piece. So it's not just a call coming in or chats and stuff, but we've set up with a lot of clients, like kind of lead funnels where maybe somebody's not ready to at the time to pick up the phone, but they're interested in this downloadable guide. And I know that's something that we were able to figure out how to set up with Smith, where we could. If somebody downloaded something, you guys can actually do outbound calls to kind of say, hey, I noticed you downloaded this. Did you want to schedule an appointment? Did you have a question, right?
Yeah, and that comes into play in a number of different ways, and I want to make sure I cover a few of the top most popular ways that outbound calls can work. So you can have a web form on your website, and typically you're alerted when new forms are completed. forward automatically those to us, and we will call back. And even though we operate 24/7, we know enough to not call people at 3 a.m. if that's not what you want us to do, of course. Now, with the outbound calls with chat engaged as well, we have the opportunity to offer chat website visitors who are chatting to ask for a call. If, for example, maybe they have reached the point in the conversation where it's just easier to have a phone call, or we're getting deeper and they want to explain themselves by voice, wonderful. So we can actually transfer to the receptionist and have that happen as a call and continue the conversation. Now, what can also happen is we can call back people who owe you money, for example, because that's a really uncomfortable conversation. It's a little bit outside of the normal marketing realm, but we know that it's an area where we can provide value and we can maintain your close personal relationship with the client without disrupting it with a transactional conversation where you do need that bill to get paid, and we can be a neutral third party. So
Right.
to me, the most interesting thing is to look at those conversations that are happening, to look at that initial prompt, whether it's a web form or a chat that maybe didn't convert, was completed, but it didn't convert to a client, to follow up and call back those people. And you can send them to us in bulk. You can automatically have them happen, you know, right after the occurrence, or you can tell us about a campaign also that's coming up where you want us to make phone calls, and we can even, as a follow-up point, send an email or SMS message afterwards if we reach voicemail to prompt that nurturing flow that you know you're also doing for your clients, Mark.
That's awesome, and that's something that I just brought it up because you know, something I know you do, and a lot of people don't even think about that as even something that can be done by somebody out you know, external, let alone the same person who can handle all the inbound calls and chats and stuff. So I love the fact that, like, it's, you know, kind of all under one roof there. So the other piece that I found is it's not just I think responsiveness. That's obviously a huge part of it, but it's also like, then what can you tell the lead about you know, like what about, they're really not really worried about, you know, answering their case problems, but it's, you know, what's the process going to be? How much is this going to cost? Those kind of things that people want to know. You work with us to kind of build like a knowledge base of things that you're able to say. You work with a law firm to say, you know, here's things we can say, things we can't say. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that is another piece that, you know, like your team is just excellent at.
Thank you. So yeah, there are two things that I want to unpack there. So responsiveness is a function not only of time, but also of content and of the channel. So if you're very responsive on the phone and you say, I did exactly what Maddy told me to do, and I have a receptionist service that's Smith.ai and they answer all of my calls, but you also have a Facebook page, you also have a business enabled text number, and you have click to call or click to text on your website, and you have a website chat that maybe is just sort of a digital voicemail that sits there and doesn't really get an instant response in real time, then you're not actually able to be as responsive as you feel maybe that you are just by phone. I think on the content side, it's also important to understand that 61% of potential clients didn't get enough information to feel like they could move forward and didn't end up hiring the firm as a result, which comes directly from the latest Clio Legal Trends report from 2019. So what we know is that information has an influential decision on the confidence and trust building that needs to happen for a potential client to become a real retained client for the firm. And this is again an opportunity for a competitive advantage. Imagine the experience where you have a very short call with someone who is unhelpful or who says, can you please email me? That channel is better for our firm and we can send you more information that way. Or you have to wait 2 weeks for a consultation to talk to anybody about anything. You know, that's not a good experience. And we talk about a client-centered firm. What you want to do is very carefully have a boundary between basic FAQ and information, but then also upfront disclaimers that the conversation you're having is not with an attorney. And we do that by chat, by text, on Facebook as well, to say, you know what, upfront, we're going to tell you this doesn't establish an attorney-client relationship. This is a conversation you're having not with an attorney, and this doesn't constitute legal advice. And we, having worked with over 60% of our clients are law firms and solo small firm attorneys, we know to say that up front, and we know that there is an expectation. And we see this every single day, that when you call a law firm, you think you're going to get the attorney right away, and you launch right into the matter that's concerning you. So there's two core things here. One is the disclaimer and the function of not, giving any legal advice. Two, just as important, is no matter what channel you're on, to express sensitivity and kindness to that person, because chances are they're probably not super over the moon thrilled to be contacting a law firm, and there is a matter that is not necessarily positive that they're getting in touch with the firm for, and they need a resolution. So being kind and thoughtful and listening and reiterating words of comfort, that's something that we also specialize in. And I think, you had a question around how we hire and who we hire, and I'm happy to go into more detail when we come to that.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to that. But before we do, so it's kind of like the other issue that I often hear and talking to, law firms when I'm out, talking, CLEs and conferences, but also clients, they say, like, hey, I know I need to answer all the calls because I'm the best person to turn a lead into a client. I do know that from our data that, like not everybody answers their calls, even though they say they do. But, we're all here like, well, we have a paralegal. I just have them answer all the calls, and that's better for us. So what are your thoughts on this?
A couple things. So you probably are the best person to answer and to convert clients, but you can come in much later in the process when we know that it is a screened, vetted, serious potential client who is worth your time, because you are the best rainmaker, or you wouldn't have your own firm, most likely, right? You're great at your job, and that involves winning new business. That's just the nature of it. But your time is precious, and also so are the people who do billable work for your firm. And what's also very expensive is hiring and finding staff. And two things that I often think about here. One is, are you treating your staff well, and are they going to stick with you because of that, or are they going to leave you? And especially now, a more remote virtual world that we're in right now in May 2020, we know that the market has expanded nationwide, and people can get jobs for work from home, and they're not limited to a rural or urban area that maybe you had a talent pool before that was restricted. I would say two things. If you're in an urban area, it can be very expensive to hire talent. If you've gotten lucky enough to have a paralegal, make sure that they're doing work that they're going to stick around for your firm and keep adding value to that expensive cost of hiring and finding someone. But the really beautiful thing is that to find even an assistant can be extremely expensive in that area, and it can be cost prohibitive to do so, let alone that's still someone who's only working 9 to 5 and we're 24/7. In a rural area, it can be extremely hard to find talent. You could feel like at the mercy of people. God help you if you have to have a bilingual staff or even go beyond the basic skills. It's going to be very hard to find someone who can meet your needs, who is within a selection that you've made, and not just the first person who's willing to work for you, that you can afford to pay. So to me, there is a major business continuity aspect here to have the peace of mind that you have a full team of people operating 24/7. And if someone for some reason rolls off our team of 100 receptionists, you'll never even notice it, because there's so much, the bench is so deep, right? And we have managers who manage them, and it's not your responsibility to constantly make sure that this person has work to do. That's built into our model, and you can just tap into it. So to me, that's very important, and to make sure that when you do have paralegals and intake coordinators in your team, that they are there to also protect your time, again, so that they do all of the legwork, all of the form filling, all of the interviews and screening, so that, maybe there's a handoff to you, the rainmaker, but you only need to spend 10 minutes on the phone with them to wow them and to sell them, rather than an hour and the chase and the monitoring and the follow-up that takes a lot more time, and your special sauce isn't necessarily conveyed in all of those interactions.
Right. And I think something we talked about before is like, in being a service provider, we were under this false premise that we had to answer the phone because it could be that prospect that needs to hear from us, or that, client that, needs to be answered right away. And then we realized that, like we were in this decision of reducing productivity versus providing great service. Right. So it's like this kind of, like constant pull. And then when we moved to, virtual, answering service, the first couple we tried, it was okay. But again, let's work with your team. I think that between the knowledge base and all the onboarding process you did with us, like the right person's getting the call. But the thing I really, I think probably noticed the biggest difference was the big increase in spam over the past few years. Like our team was answering these calls and majority of them weren't even, either prospects or clients, right? It was junk, spam calls or marketing and sales calls that, weren't even like somebody trying to say, hey, we can be a janitor for your office. I mean, all the random calls you get, right? Not even like somebody who's specific to an agency world.
And 20 to 30% of those calls on average.
Yeah, and like those, I mean, it's one of the things that I love is getting that message summary where it just says, here was a call we answered. It seemed like a sales call. We've already marked this as spam. And click here if we got that wrong. And I don't know if I've ever clicked there, right? It's like, this is awesome. Like that's a call, like you said, maybe 30% or more that we didn't even have to handle or pick up the phone or talk to, and we're able to continue on the work that we wanted to do and not bother somebody's time. So that was something that I didn't even realize was going to be a massive benefit doing this. And then as I start seeing these, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was interrupting my team every day. So that's something. I mean, and you had the increase in spam over the past few years has been insane.
The statistics are all over the place, and until it is the government's burden and they take that full responsibility on, it's the private company's burden, and we actually have taken that on, and there are a few impacts here, right? So if you've worked with another answering service where they say that spam calls are free, but only if you identify them, that means a lot of time poring over your bill every month to see, were there any spam calls that I can get credit for and give me that money back? And that's a huge hassle. So we want to do it for you proactively. We know that at 20 to 30% of your spam calls, that's actually a lot of legwork that you would expect to have to do. And then do you listen to all of those calls? How would you possibly cover all of them? Now, the other thing is that when you have a sales team, being a sales team that is on phone calls all day long is already exhausting. It's very draining to have that level of energy and excitement and positivity you need to bring to that position. If you are bogged down with the headache of spam calls, you're going to see reduced performance. It's just an energy sap. So immediately you don't have the time spent, but you also don't have the energy sapped from those calls that come through that are not relevant for you. And I think the important component that I'll also focus on here is that we automatically block 20 million known spammers, but on a custom side, we can block per account people who you say, this person is a nuisance, they're harassing me, they're spam, it's unwanted sales calls. And it may be even a vendor who you say, you know what, I've told this person no, can you just please block those calls? And your neighbor, who may be a Smith.ai client, may say, that's actually my vendor. And you say, good for you, I'm all set, I don't want to hear from that person. But we don't globally block numbers if we're not totally sure that they're spammers. We want each account to be handled properly according to who you do business with, what calls you want to accept, what your tolerance is, et cetera.
Yeah, and that's like we've experienced that, right? Where something comes in and it's like, well, we're not sure. It sounds, like salespeople are pretty good, right? At kind of sounding like they're a client or a vendor or whatever, and then we just reply and say, nope, that's actually a sales call. Can you mark it? And just done, right? Love that. And the other thing that we've talked about, and something that at GNGF we always say, is that law firms should be interacting with a lead in the way that kind of like potential client wants to interact. Maybe down the road, you can kind of, if once they become a client, you can say, here's my process, here's how you need to work with me. But when they're still kind of shopping around and, clicking through Google, if they call you, you should probably be talking to them. If they do a chat, you should be on chat, text, Facebook Messenger, we're seeing a lot more of. And it's something that we actually we would go out there and preach that, but then we weren't doing it ourselves because we're like, Facebook Messenger, who has time to monitor that? We would put a auto response saying, call us here, or, email us here. We had a chat on our website that was only monitored by our team. So at certain hours, it just got, went unnoticed. So when we wrapped all that together now, because you guys have Facebook Messenger now, you can monitor our Facebook Messenger because we do a lot of Facebook work and we get some stuff on Facebook occasionally. We'll get, our online chats and our phone calls what I love about that, and this is why one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in front of our clients, because just to understand that you can get all this under one roof, like
Right.
all the knowledge-based work we do, right? So here's our frequently asked questions, here's all this information.
Shared across every channel.
Right, like the people using it are the same.
It makes so
using
much
the same
sense.
stuff.
It's like ludicrous why more companies don't do this. We're like letting out all the secrets, right? But I mean, why would someone who comes, onto your Facebook page who was recommended? I mean, Facebook has a recommending tool.
Right.
We actually see a lot of business interaction on Facebook. They have a question on Facebook. It's the same human being that would have found your website and called you. Why would they get a different response from a different company using a different technology? Because it's the social media coordinator or it's the outsourced chat service, and then you have an in-house receptionist. Who's got time to manage all the messaging when there's out of office, when there's a new campaign, who's where? It's so much to coordinate. It's very simple when you have a dedicated account manager at Smith.ai who can coordinate updates across every channel where we operate for you and make sure that there's a consistent message that's happening every single time and on the fly, right? If you are someone who's an attorney who now is going to trial and your call handling directions have changed, or you're no longer accepting consultations in the morning, or you have to be at court, for a client in a criminal defense firm, then you absolutely need to have custom quick, adjustments to your instructions.
But across every
across the board.
Right. And if
who didn't tell the chat team, oops.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I really wanted to bring this up for our clients because, like we've been talking about the benefits of chat, the benefits of reception services. We've been talking about this for a while. I mean, we actually provide a chat service for clients that don't already have one because we're like, it's so important. And like, I feel bad now because it's like, hey, this just makes so much sense to have it under one roof. I'm like, stop using our chat service. Like, if you're going to move the virtual receptionist to Smith.ai, use their chat, integrate their chat. We're not making money on our chat service. We just want to provide one because we know it adds value to our client, right? So I wanted to talk about this as a big important aspect because we've seen massive value as an agency working with you guys. But I'm like, this makes so much sense for a client. I actually kind of feel bad that we didn't have this option before, so we weren't really recommending it, but now we do. And so I'm basically saying, yes, if you're using the GNGF chat, stop, use Smith.ai. Like this is, it just makes so much sense, So I wanted to bring that up. I mean, because, the other thing is even if a law firm tried, right? Like you can't stay on top of all these things. Like having somebody monitor text messaging, monitor the chat, monitor Facebook, and answer the phones. Like it's one thing just to, we just talked in the beginning about how hard it is just to answer a phone. So
at the very least, you need overflow. That we know. If you do nothing else, here's the sort of bare bones, cheap, skeptical. I totally relate to this person. I am not talking down at all. I get it. Listen, we've got the added value, first of all, of the staffed chat plans include staffing your text service and your Facebook, and it's not extra, right? On the phone side, outbound calls and inbound are treated the same cost. There's not an extra fee. We don't charge extra for Spanish speaking, callbacks or any Spanish language conversations. So you're getting comprehensive at the get-go, right? But I think it's important to say, all right, if you are really skeptical, what do you need to get started with Smith.ai to sort of poke and prod at it to say I'm not going to make any investment. I really want to see what's going on. There's a 20 call, 20 chat free trial. There is a free AI chatbot, which is actually the technology that helps our receptionists and live chat agents respond with the correct predicted response so they can sort of customize and humanize, but it gives them a bit of steering. You get that at your fingertips to customize yourself for unlimited chats with a short playbook, a short sort of set of Q&A. Why not have that running free on your site and say, who's chatting with me? Who's on my website? What questions do they have? And guess what? You're going to get all those not provided keywords that Google won't give you. That is the exact same query they're typing into Google. And now guess what? You have them and they're free. So that's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, we love chat transcripts. Those are great for SEO.
They're brilliant. They give you every piece of content that you need. My favorite example is if you've been, on your website, you're not working with a fantastic marketing agency and you need good help, right? What do you know that there are regional terms that are relevant that your users and your potential clients may be using that are not reflected on your website, and chat can immediately betray your website and tell you what to improve. Are you doing personal injury and your website says car wreck and every chatter says car accident? Oops. You know,
Yeah, DUI or DWI, right? Yeah,
exactly. Who is searching and what are they saying, and put it in their own language, because that's what Google wants to see. So
Absolutely.
it's not that you don't do those services, it's that you may not be describing them correctly. And then we take all that information and we say, we see those things as synonyms. Sure, we get it. We understand that if someone has a question about this or different immigration forms, that's what this means. That's what it means for us to be sort of legal specialists. And we can build that into the predictive responses, the most common questions, and the answers that you want us to share, so that we best prepare your potential clients for a successful consultation with you. And I think that also goes to expectations that you touched on earlier, Mark, which is, if you are, speaking of the sort of like bare bones setup, if you're using, Google Voice or personal cell phone number and not paying the $10, $15 a month for basic phone setup with a VoIP phone, phone.com, Jive, Grasshopper, there's so many of them out there, right? Then you are setting expectations for your client that are also unsustainable. So maybe you're the rainmaker. Maybe your paralegal is the rainmaker. Maybe you're getting by on your cell phone. But guess what? Over time, that builds resentment. It's not sustainable. If someone has, the cell phone number in their phone, they're never going to take it out. So now you're trapped. And guess what? When they refer your business, what number are they going to give? Your cell phone number. And it's a cycle. So make sure that you're setting up these systems that protect your future self, and not the self right now that's just trying to get through the day and survive, right? Like, you will be so much happier if you treat your campaigns as seriously as they need these processes in place for very little money to protect the leads who you only have one shot at really getting into your funnel, because people don't respond to callbacks. They've already moved on. And that one chance is yours, and all you need is a friendly response. You don't need that rainmaker. We know how to get in touch with that person.
All right, so I've got two more kind of questions about Smith and specific to law firms. So, because you guys work with a ton of law firms, so you know that law firms have unique systems and unique rules and stuff. That it's not just everybody's using Salesforce or some CRM that's like that a lot of people use. They have like their own practice management systems, certain ethics rules and stuff.
Right.
So tell me about some of that. I know you guys have some integrations specific to practice management. I know you work with like LawPay and things like that to be able to do payments. So tell me some more about some of the things that within the legal space that you guys are even kind of more dialed in and custom for lawyers.
Yeah, so the best way for me to describe it is that we work with your system and within the bounds of your system. So we do not give legal advice on the phone. We are very careful to know the bounds within which we can work. We know also your responsibility to monitor our work. And there are plenty of tools, there's CallRail that can be stacked on with your phone system for recording and things like that. But it's important to know that we will have these conversations, alert you immediately, and we can send you an email, a text message, and or a Slack or web chat message to immediately keep you in the loop after a call or conversation. We also will log that conversation in your CRM, as long as there's an open API, right? So Clio, Practice Panther, Rocket Matter, Lawmatics, you name it, we can integrate with these solutions. We don't log in to them, right? Very importantly, that would be a security concern. You don't want to be giving your contractors that are receptionist services and chat agents licenses to your software. First of all, it's expensive. Second of all, it's a security risk. There is a software connection, sort of a handoff, where we know the first name that we've entered in our field for the caller or the chatter relates to the first name in Clio, for example. And we map to those fields. So after a call, a new contact is logged, the conversation is logged. If it's a chat, the entire transcript is logged. And what that means is that you don't have to do the data entry work, and neither does anyone on your team. And that also allows you to easily push sort of the nurture button or create the agreement off of that record into a master matter. I think importantly though, who is having these calls? I mentioned earlier, yes, the systems are important. We can handle any invoice, any link you have. A link could be a LawPay, invoice to complete with a specific dollar amount for a consultation that you charge for. We could also schedule appointments for you on Calendly or Acuity. And it really is up to you what systems we use. We recommend that you get as much as you can done through us because that is most efficient and we're able to put more qualified leads on your calendar and into your pipeline. And frankly, what we can also do is reference lists that you may have for firms you recommend for ill-fitting leads. So this is like maybe one of my favorite hacks and great for networking in your community, but we can make referrals for you so that when we're on the phone, and this is ROI positive, right? You have paid for this set of leads, they're very good quality, but 2 out of 10 are just not the right fit. So what do? We say, oh, ABC Law Firm recommends DEF Law Firm for this criminal defense matter. We only handle family law, and here's their contact information. I hope that's of use to you. And we see positive reviews on Google just because of the level of service that you provided to that person. You saved the day. You don't have to send them back to Google. And guess what? During that conversation, I recommend that you tell us to tell that person, by the way, we're taking new clients. The firm does focus on this. And if you do have a need, please do get in touch with us and feel free to, send people our way. Why not? Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Referrals, any opportunity to remember to remind someone to keep you top of mind. Big benefit. I mean, referrals are still drive half of leads to law firms, right? So yeah. Very important to keep on top of. And the last thing I want to talk about was, because I've gotten to understand more about the actual receptionist. So initially when I, started talking to you, I just assumed, just like everybody else, some big call center somewhere, and I was wondering where it was and how you're hiring people and how do you keep everybody, because I've always heard call centers just rotate, it's a revolving door. But you told me your average tenure is really long, and then I found out that everybody's already remote. You guys were virtual and remote from kind of early on.
Long before everyone had to get on board with this COVID crisis. Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the reception, because I don't think, people spend enough time talking about that. And because they're so good, we've gotten compliments about, the person I talked to on the phone was so friendly, thank you for that. And I'm like, oh, that person doesn't even work here. That's awesome.
Right.
But so tell me about these awesome receptionists.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, awesome hires awesome. And we've had a lot of people who started as receptionists who are now on the hiring team, and they have a really clear vision and very well coordinated for even qualities that make a really fantastic sort of phone specialist versus a chat specialist, right? There are some people who just sort of prefer those different channels. But the amazing thing is that we already have quiet home offices. So when we screen for and hire new receptionists, we not only have the technical chops and hoops that they have to run through and check those boxes, but we also have, an IQ and the EQ sort of analysis, right? So are you, as I mentioned before, sensitive, thoughtful, kind human being? Because we can't teach you how to be that person if you're not already as an adult.
Right.
You should have a career in customer service, hospitality, sales, office management. We have people who were former paralegals of the Florida Supreme Court, for example. They were running military call center operations. These are people who are career professionals who have had to move around for work or have a flexible home work environment due to child care or elder care, or a spouse who has to travel often, who actually has to be on base at the military, for example. How do you take a serious job with you? There are very few opportunities out there to maintain a career and to move and to not have it be absolutely disruptive to your work and productivity and career lifetime. So that's something we take very seriously. We have a lot of referrals within our network, and we're very grateful for that. But you also have to have really exceptionally fast, plugged in, hardwired internet, a fantastic, computer and headphone setup so that you do sound like you're in an office, not a
Mm-hmm.
call center. And you have to be quite a good multitasker also. We have a proprietary technology that the receptionists and chat agents use that provides quite a lot of information to you all at once in a smart sequence so that you know where the conversation's going, but it's not scripted. But you really have to be someone who can hold a lot of information, at the same time be sensitive and thoughtful, and know that there is most likely an end goal that you're hopefully steering towards for
Mm-hmm.
qualified leads, right? We don't want to be, sort of aloof about the goals of our clients. So that's also top of mind.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love the fact that, like you said, like a number of your receptionists were like, military spouses, because of the having to move aroround and stuff, was cool, because it
They're
meant
good
a
on
lot
getting
to.
those bills paid for you.
Yeah, I tell you. But it meant a lot to me because, like one of our co-founders was a Marine fighter pilot, retired, and so that was kind of cool. We were big fans of anything to do to help with the military. So,
Yeah, us too.
so again, like we're obviously, GNGF is a big fan, and if your client and thinking about this, or already maybe using a different chat service, or using our chat service, using a different receptionist, and thinking about hey, bring it under one roof. We'll talk about maybe pricing in a second, but
Yep.
please just contact your account manager. We're not trying to hey, here's the price they're going to give us, and we're going to mark it up and that kind of stuff. We just, go straight to Smith and get everything set up. They're amazing. We can help with the website stuff, but they'll do, a lot of stuff as well with us.
We can
so we
keep
can get it.
GNGF in the loop. Exactly. We often do.
Right.
We work in tandem, hand in hand.
Exactly. But let's talk about a little bit about how the pricing works, because it's a little different than I think what some people are used to in terms of kind of like, paying for bulk minutes and stuff like that. Talk about how your pricing model is a little different.
So what I love about the pricing model is that it starts at $140 a month, which is incredible. It's such a low cost for what you get. And it actually even starts before that for $0 with the 20 call, 20 chat free trial. Now, when you start a monthly plan, it's all month to month. If you love it, as many people do, we actually offer discounts for 6 and 12-month plans that you pay up front. Now, a couple really interesting things to consider here. The monthly plan is a price break as the volume goes up. So if you're just doing the 20 calls per month, you're paying $7 per call. If you're doing the 100 calls per month, you're paying $5 per call,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as the volume goes up, the price comes down per call. If you know that you're going to have at least 100 calls per month, you pay up front to lock in that lower price, and then your overage is also at that lower price. So if you are on the 20 call a month plan and you get 25 calls, those 5 extra calls would be as overage charged at $7 per call. If you're on the 100 call plan, then you're going to have those 5 calls be charged $5 per call. So you have the peace of mind that your bill is going to be predictable every month. You pay per call, and importantly, I don't want to sort of run past that point that I just made, which is a lot of receptionist services will charge per minute, and it's really hard to get a handle on how much you're paying per call, how
Mm-hmm.
much that lead was worth to you, how that bakes into your campaign costs and your ROI for the cost of acquiring a new client. If
You're not paying for spam calls, so that's a
not at
too.
all. We completely block those. And that's critical because we're charging you per call. So we want to make sure that every call we charge you for is relevant to your business. Now, that also goes hand in hand with chat and any message and any
Mm-hmm.
conversation that we're doing. We are able to identify, sort of trolls on the internet and people who are spamming your phone or anywhere, and we will not charge you for those. Now, the nice thing is you can change your plan up or down anytime. You can use us for overage. You can use us for, overflow. You can use us for after hours. We can ring you first and then be attempted, although we would really recommend you don't push that too far with too many rings. You want to get someone on the phone pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You can also have us sit within one part of your phone system. So if you have a call system that's set up where you say press 1 for new clients, 2 for existing clients, we can just be on the press 1 if you want us to, and just talk to the new potential clients. And existing clients, maybe they do go to the paralegal or to you, depending on your firm setup. So those are all options for you. We also can use your business phone number when we make outbound calls that Mark and I discussed before. So it's important to know that when, 47% of incoming calls are not answered. The same way that it's very hard to get the lead back on the phone, if you want us to make outbound calls for you, we also want to get that person on the phone on that phone call. And one way that we can facilitate that is by using your caller ID
Right.
when we call. So that's an important component that we are aware of as well. I would also say that if you have friends and you want to recommend Smith.ai, that immediately impacts your bill. So if you are in a networking group and you say use Smith.ai, we'll give you $25 a month off of your bill for every month they remain a paying client. And we actually just had our first last year, Sonia Wakani lifetime free client. How amazing is that? I mean, she doesn't pay for her receptionist service because she's recommended us to so many friends and peers.
Oh, that's awesome. She's coming on a GNGF Live soon, actually. So
Awesome.
she's amazing. Yeah.
I agree. She's fantastic. So, I mean, I would just say that getting started is also often part of the conversation here. How much is it going to cost, and how much time is it going to cost me to get started? And this is where we come back to that mental hurdle and comfort zone. So know that we don't expect you as the receptionist service to be a receptionist specialist yourself. That would be ludicrous. We're the specialists. So you just have to tell us what you do and what you don't do and what your preferences are for communications, and we can steer you in the right direction. And guess what? That's what the trial's for. We will start handling your calls. We'll start handling your chats. And then we will look at them together and to say, how can we revise this and make this even better for you? Or have you considered this or that? That's what the account manager is for. That's what the trial process is for, and that timing. It's also so that we get a really good estimate for how long it takes us to get through 20 calls and 20 chats. Can we give you a reasonable price for a monthly plan so that it's not so variable every month and you're about, getting about that amount of calls or chats on your plan? We want to predictably have you have your budget in place so there's less variability. We know that's very important to business owners. So come to us with an open mind and just answer a few questions, and we will take care of all the rest, and we'll ask you for what we need. It doesn't have to be, as we often find, this big, hairy, meaty weekend project, shut the door, tell the kids, like, don't bother me, I need to figure out my intake system. It comes with time. It's not going to be day one perfection, right? It is going to be a little bit of a learning that immediately has positive impact, but can have even greater positive impact as we refine together over time.
Awesome. Well, we went way longer than I thought we would going through this because it's just so much information. So Maddy, thank you so much. And again, if you're a client, talk to your account manager. They can get you in touch with the right people over at Smith, and we can get all that, get you moving over. But there's also, a lot of great resources Smith has, and I will make sure, Maddy will send me a bunch, and we'll get some of those in. I'll just put them in the comments in YouTube or below, or the show notes or something for this, so that, people can just click and access that. That would be awesome. Maddy, again, thank you so much. Again, we're big fans. So like Smith has been great for GNGF and us, and our time we got a lot of time back. And I think, from what I've heard, like the reception I get from the prospects, like we're handling calls very well. People are really, really impressed by, just how fast they get a hold of us, how they can schedule calls right away because we use Calendly, and way better than all the voicemails we used to get and never get a hold of people afterwards.
Absolutely. There's no more of that unknown, right? That, there was a voicemail and they probably weren't serious anyway. We're very good at sort of telling ourselves stories. And the only way to debunk that is to have someone handle those for you and really see how much value there is in those calls that are being generated from your campaigns and those chats. So what I will say is that, Mark, thank you for the amazing glowing review and for hosting me today here. I will encourage everybody, go online and search for Smith.ai reviews, because, Mark's story is one. There are many different perspectives on the impact of Smith.ai, and I think that it's really nice to see that many different business types and many different personality types and people with different sets of expectations and goals and needs are finding that Smith.ai is a match for them. So I encourage you to read our reviews, which are glowing, and to find a story that resonates with you. And when you get in touch with Mark's team, that you even share those and you say, this is really what I want to achieve for my business. I want to have this sort of experience. Can you help me make that happen?
Awesome. Well, and you guys will, so I have no doubt. So thanks again for taking the time. And just sometimes I just have to step out and say, hey, clients, you need to be doing this, and this is one of those times. So thank you very much. And I'm sure I'll see you on a webinar or legal conference soon. I seem to see you everywhere these days.
Absolutely, can't wait. Thanks so much, Mark.
All right, awesome.